So I want to thank everyone for being here. We had about 38 people who registered for this online conversation on AI. And what I'd like to say is this is how we really got into this. We have two groups as Sisters of Charity of New York in the Office of Peace, Justice, Integrity of Creation. We have a group called Cosmological Spirituality Group, and we have our Creations Transformative Energy group. And there's some people on both those groups that are here tonight. And both these groups have really been studying for a long time and come out of the context of Thomas Berry's new story and how we are part of this 13.8 billion year unfolding, ever developing, ongoing universe. And we as humans are earth conscious of itself. And so what has been happening as we've been having our conversations, we've really been drawn into what is artificial intelligence and what does this mean for us as we continue in our developing as humans. And so we have said, both groups have said they want to understand a little bit more about artificial intelligence, what it's saying to us, what is our role, our responsibility. And we realize that Pope Leo XIV has made this a very important focus of his pontificate. And even as early as January, we found out, I think it's Antigua et Nova, there's a document that was put out by two dicasteries from the Vatican that spoke to artificial intelligence. And so maybe as we begin this conversation today, and before I introduce Ben and he starts speaking, I just like to read from this first sentence of Antigua et Nova. With wisdom both ancient and new, we are called to reflect on the current challenges and opportunities posed by scientific and technological advancements, particularly by the recent development of artificial intelligence, AI. So as we listen and learn this evening, we pray for wisdom. We pray for wisdom for ourselves as we learn how to navigate this new world of artificial intelligence. We pray for wisdom for all those who will be using it, and especially for world leaders, political leaders, corporate leaders, all those that are leading the development of AI, that we use it wisely, justly, use it for the good of all, for the common good. So with that, I'd like to say this is a great opportunity to introduce my nephew, Ben, Samara, and everyone read the flyer. So I won't go into this, but he has recently, in addition to all his other work, he really has been looking at artificial intelligence and what it means and how important it is for teachers to know how to use it and how do they teach their students to use it wisely. So the structure of this 1 hour, and we'll try to keep us closely to 1 hour, will be he will talk for 15, 20 minutes. We'll entertain some questions. What are some of the questions that are coming to you? Maybe we'll answer 1, 2, 3, and then he'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll have it some more questions. We'll see how that goes. So welcome, Ben, and you're on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I'm so glad everybody's here, and it's nice to see you all. And this is just a great opportunity to talk to a group about something that I believe really is the challenge of our lifetimes. And I think that some of the things that I'll say tonight will probably inspire some awe. Some of the things I'll say tonight may inspire some fear. And I think that there's room for a little bit of both. And I think that we have to be cautious about what we're doing and really think ethically about what we're doing, both on a micro and a macro level. So, I'm really excited to be here. Just a little bit of background, apart from the bio, I've been a school counselor in on the elementary school level in New Jersey for about 15 years now. Very, very big focus on social emotional learning and citizenship. And lately, digital citizenship has been more at the forefront and has been more of what I've been doing. So I've done workshops with my students for years now on social media and responsible use. And over the last couple of years now, I've had to start talking more about AI. And what I found is not enough people are talking about AI. And the ones who are, there's even a smaller segment that are talking about it in the right way. So late last year, I founded Samara Solutions Group, which is a consulting firm that is dedicated towards really helping schools and districts implement AI and technology responsibly in a human-centered way. And so, that's really my goal. My goal is for every school, district, student to be able to receive the right education about this absolutely transformative technology that's going to transform our entire world. So I come more from an education background, but I've been keeping, of course, abreast on every aspect of this technology, both personally and professionally. So I'm here to talk to you about all of it today, education and everything else. And if you have any questions as I move through the presentation, if you want to do a hand raise, or Carol can look into the chat and see some things, and I've told her she can cut me off at any point and ask a question. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to share my screen and start this presentation. And if you have any questions at any point, please jump in. So, Carol, can you see my screen? I just want to make sure that we are seeing me.
Yes.
Okay. So, first, a little bit of history, because I think it's interesting. A lot of people think AI is recent, but it's not necessarily a recent concept. It actually dates back all the way back to Alan Turing in the 1950s, when they started thinking about computer intelligence as it relates to human intelligence. And you can see back here on the timeline, all the way back in 1950. 1956 was actually the first time that the term artificial intelligence was coined by a man named John McCarthy. We actually had our first chatbot that was capable of holding conversations with humans, albeit not very sophisticated conversations, all the way back in 1964. So believe it or not, that was happening way back when, even when computers were first starting. Then they have a long, long period. You see that big gap from 64 to 97, where we have this AI dead period, where there's just not enough technological advancement to really make anything happen, right? But then we have the chess playing computers, the AIs, and we start to see things ramp up as we get to the early 2000s. And our first home use of this, you can see in 2002, these automatic vacuum cleaners, those Roombas, that is actually a form of artificial intelligence. So we start seeing these things. We start seeing Siri in the iPhone, Amazon's Alexa. And then moving forward, we start to have more advanced artificial intelligence in the 2020s. But I wanted to show you this timeline because really, we're going back about 70 years. So this is not a new concept. It's a rapidly evolving concept, and one that has exponentially curved over the last couple of years, but it's been around for a while. So I want to, if I can actually get to the next slide, there we go. I want to talk to you about what are LLMs, which are called large language models. If you've ever heard of ChatGPT, that is called a large language model, and that is a form of generative AI. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is AI, what is generative AI, and what are LLMs. So it's important to know that there are two types of AI: specialized, or sometimes they call it narrow AI, and generative AI. So I'm going to start with specialized AI because that's been around for a little bit longer. And specialized AI is AI that's designed for one specific task. It's designed to do one thing really, really well. Okay. So for instance, Netflix. If you've ever watched Netflix and it's recommended a show to you, that is using an AI system to see what you watch and recommend shows to you. That's a type of specialized AI. Your Amazon Alexa, if you have that, that's another kind of specialized AI. If you've heard about these self-driving cars like Waymo or Tesla now has self-driving cars on the road, they use a specialized AI system for their navigation. And that's these cars that you're seeing out on the road now with no drivers, which is still quite scary to me. I'm not quite there yet. And then if you've ever looked at your phone and opened it with it just scanning your face, that is specialized AI, right? So one task very, very well. Now, over the last couple years, generative AI has become the rage. It's become popular. This is different. This is a type of AI where, when prompted by the user, can create new content. It can create things on its own. So conversations, stories, images, videos, even music. There are generative AI systems that can actually create music just from a text prompt, and they're wild, very crazy. So generative AI, ChatGPT. There's image generation, such as DALI, which is a play on Salvador Dali, I believe. And then you have video generation systems like Google's VO3, which I will show you a mind-blowing video from later. So these are all generative AI systems. Now, large language models like ChatGPT, they generate human-like language using vast amounts of training data. So this is a little bit hard of a concept to wrap your head around, but what they do is they feed all sorts of text and data into these models, these large language models. So there was a company called Anthropic that has a LLM, or a large language model, called Claude. They just had a trial, actually, a lawsuit where book publishers were saying that they were uploading their books to these large language models as training data, and without their consent. And it actually was greenlit that they were allowed to do this, but they were scanning books, thousands and thousands and thousands of books. So essentially, these large language models have every piece of text that has ever been put on the internet. So they have a wide, vast knowledge base. And when you write something on ChatGPT, what you're getting back sounds very, very human, but it's not human. What it's actually doing is using all of that data to actually do word prediction. It's predicting what the next word should be. So guessing based on all of the data that it has. So it sounds very, very human-like, but it is not human. So, and it is not, it doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have any of the things that we have, but it is very, very knowledgeable based on its training data. So I want to stop there and see if anybody has any questions, because that could be a little bit hard to wrap your head around. And if not, I'll move on to the next slide.
I'm trying to get us so we can see each other and see. Okay, gallery.
All right. I'm going to go on. All right.
Okay, all right then, good.
So, as I said, these LLMs and the generative AI, they're not thinking or feeling, they're simulating understanding through patterns and word prediction. It's really important to understand that AI's growth is exponential, meaning it is only going to continue to get smarter. Okay, but we must decide what its purpose is. We must decide how it's used. We must decide how it's implemented. And there's a quote that I really like, and it says, by far the greatest danger of artificial intelligence is that people conclude too early that they understand it. We always need to be thinking about, where is this going? What is it doing? What do we understand? What do we not understand? And one of the scariest parts to me is that these AI companies, such as OpenAI or Google or Anthropic, any of these companies have openly admitted that they do not understand how these things are doing what they're doing. It's learning from all of the context that we're giving it, from all of the training data, and it's providing these responses, but they don't necessarily know how it's happening. And that to me is one of the biggest red flags that we have to think about, which is we are creating a system necessarily that we don't know how it's going to evolve. And so that's why I advocate for responsible guardrails for policy. I think we have an open policy window right now where our government and our politicians need to do something to regulate this, because the potential for it to get out of control is very, very large. So there are positive use cases. In healthcare, we've already seen situations where AI can help support early diagnosis, personalized treatment, and medical research. There are AI tools that can scan radiology. They almost act like a radiology assistant. So a lot of people think that radiologists are going to be replaced. You're going to hear a lot of talk about jobs being replaced. I don't actually see that happening. I think it would be a mistake for that to happen. I think, and you'll see a theme with all of the things that I'm saying, I think AI can be very, very valuable if it is supporting and augmenting human intelligence. When people start talking about AI completely replacing human intelligence, for instance, kicking that radiologist out of the room and saying, we're just going to have AI look at the scan and say whether it's cancer or not. To me, that's a mistake. But if we have AI supporting that radiologist, we're going to have more accurate scans. We're going to be able to have that human eye checking what the AI is doing, and it's going to be more efficient. So in healthcare specifically, people say AI is going to be a game changer moving forward. Potential to increase longevity, to use AI to look at previous research and come up with cures for diseases that we might have had to wait 50 years for. So healthcare is a big piece. Global education is something that I am very passionate about, obviously, and we're already seeing the benefits of AI with teacher assistants. Teachers will spend hours on lesson plans every single week. Now they're able to use AI as essentially a teacher's assistant that can bring them back a first draft of that lesson plan that they then can tweak, add their voice to, look at, right? The issue again is if that teacher goes to AI, gets that lesson plan, and does nothing with it and just gives it to the students or conducts that lesson without that review. So teachers have really seen the benefit of this. Translation and access for underserved communities. So imagine places in the world where teachers, high quality teachers, can't get to. We may have the opportunity in the very near future to get high quality education through AI to some of those communities. And then I'm going to go back up to one-to-one tutoring, which is what I believe really is the future of AI in education. If you think about what if we've seen that AI, well, not AI, we've seen that tutoring, personalized one-to-one tutoring with humans shows the greatest academic gains for students. What if students had personalized one-to-one tutoring available to them 24 hours a day, and it is as if their tutor was right next to them all the time, right? So teachers have their personal assistant, students have their personal assistant. That could really be a game changer for education, but it has to be done the right way. So we look at climate, weather modeling, energy efficiency. We can see the benefits there. Disability inclusion. Think about the voice to text that we can see with AI, image recognition, And even have on here pairing with emerging technologies. There are companies like Neuralink that are looking at actually having something that connects to the brain and that will eventually have AI integrated. They've already had success where there's actually a video where there's two people who are uh, paralyzed. They do not have the use of their arms, their legs, and they have this Neuralink system. And these two are playing video games with each other, literally just using their minds. And that's a real thing that happened this year. And to me, that's just mind blowing. So now imagine AI involved in that. We're talking about potentially people with debilitating, paralyzing conditions that may potentially even be able to walk again at some point. So just incredible stuff. And then in humanitarian efforts, which I know this group is very, very passionate about, boosting efficiency and strengthening support. You know, think about AI generated maps, being able to help refugees in locations that you didn't know, you don't know who's where, or facial recognition, things like that, that we can use for humanitarian efforts that could really help a lot of people. So those are some positive use cases. Any questions so far?
Give me a chance to see if
Mm-hmm.
in case there's someone, Ben, who's can't raise their hand. I don't
Yep.
see.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep rolling.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to go to negative cases and concerns. So something came out recently where they said that in the next few years, potentially 90% of all content on the internet is going to either be generated or manipulated by AI. So the potential for misinformation, deep fakes, which are fake images or videos of actual people, are going to be a real concern here. And of course, we're already seeing over the last decade or so an erosion of trust and of what is the truth, and I fear that that only is going to continue. Bias, the what we need to know about bias in AI. AI is a reflection of us and of the training data that we use. So the training data that is used to train these AI systems, if there is bias embedded in that, and if you do a quick Google search about anything, you'll see that there are links that are biased, there are articles that are biased. Now, all of those things have been fed into an AI LLM, a large language model. It now may reflect some of those biases back, right? So, for instance, people have said, give me a list of doctors, and it comes back all males, right? Or something to that effect, right? So sometimes you have to really look critically to see it. And that's some of the things that I'm trying to teach some of our students, and to get schools to teach students, is to call out this misinformation and deep fakes, to be able to recognize it, to be able to call out bias when you're getting AI outputs. Then we have surveillance and privacy violations and potentially misusing data. Data privacy is a big deal right now in AI, and something that the AI companies don't always seem to be as concerned about as they should. In education, we talk about how these platforms that we're using that are education specific need to be FERPA and COPA compliant, so that we're not giving student data out and putting it out there for these companies to use. And that's something very important. And then another one that I'm going to keep hitting on is using AI to replace rather than to augment. So a recent MIT study came out that showed that students who just used AI to write their paper and handed it in, it really diminished their critical thinking skills. It diminished their ability to recall their essay topic and the things that they wanted to write about. And I think that's obvious, right? If you don't do any of the work, if you have somebody, if I gave something to a friend of mine and had them write it and they turned it in and I didn't do anything, I don't know anything about anything, right? I don't know what happened. But if I write a draft, or if I have this thing write a draft for me, and then I'm working with it and I'm editing it and I'm adding my voice, right? That is much better than using it to replace my thinking. And then the last one before we get to questions are these irresponsible apps. So something like Character AI, which Common Sense Media talked about earlier this year. Uh, we're going to see a lot of AI chatbots and different apps and things that are not out to help our society. They're out to generate a profit. And this Character AI specifically, there's not many guardrails on it. It has this and other platforms have encouraged children to self-harm, to just make poor decisions, just acting as if it were just a friend at school rather than this powerful thing that they're interacting with, right? And so we really have to be careful, especially if anybody here is a parent, about what apps we're allowing our children on. So I know we have a question. Christopher has a question.
All right. So, but can I say, then how many more slides do you have? Because it'd be nice to see each other as we ask questions.
Yes, I have probably about 8 more.
8 more. So
Yeah,
do you want to can you take a break? Put the
I can
slides
stop the
down?
share. Sure.
Okay,
Let's stop the
great.
share.
And so I know Chris had a question,
Go
and I
ahead,
think
Chris.
Angela does too.
Yeah, I
Okay.
wanted to say that at first that Angela wrote in the chat, so I was just making sure that that was visible. So we can do Angela's question, and then I'll be happy to ask my question.
Okay, yeah. Angela asks, what is the best way to figure out if the information is misleading? And that's a difficult one. That's really difficult because a lot of times it's really tough to tell unless you know a lot about the topic. So what I found is that, I'll search something up, and I don't know how many of you have Googled recently, but you get now this AI summary, right? And you look at this AI summary, you're like, oh yeah, that looks pretty good. That's great. Yeah. But what I found is when I really know about something and I'm Googling and I look at that AI summary, 9 times out of 10, I'm saying to myself that's not, no, there's something not right about that. So my advice at this point, AI hallucinates a lot. It's called hallucinations when AI gets something wrong, is to, if you're really looking for a piece of concrete information, is to double check with at least 2 or 3 other sources what AI has given you. And try to, don't use that AI summary, go a little bit deeper than that, and to really test AI on some of the things that you do know, and try to do it that way. It's difficult. It's difficult to. We were in our school. We have a platform called School AI, and a student asked it a math problem, and it came back. They were trying to work on a math problem. It doesn't give the answers necessarily, but it helped them work it out. And when we looked back and looked at the chat log, it did it completely incorrectly. And we would have had no idea unless we had gone back to double check. So we should always be checking AI outputs. We should never take anything that it says to us for fact without double checking. That's all I can say on that. Chris?
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I'm a university professor. That's what I do. And I met your lovely aunt on walks around campus. And that's why myself and one of my colleagues is here, Ben. And
Happy to have you.
this summer, so I teach classes online, in person, and I've noticed how, as an instructor, and I'll be quick, but I just think it's relevant. Like, one, we know when AI is used. We have systems there's different systems like Turnitin and whatnot that'll actually evaluate the proportion or the percentage of artificially generated information. So I just thought that would be important to share because there's actually a way for teachers and educators to know directly how much of it is yours and how much of it is someone else's.
Yeah.
That's under the negative part in a way when people are sort of, let's just use the word cheating with it. However, I wanted to say 2 experiences I had that were important. One, as a university professor, we have to publish. So I was working on an article and we got feedback from an editor, and they wanted us to divide it up, the research that we had done, into 2. So I used ChatGPT, but from an intellectual standpoint, as an educated person, I was able to ask series of questions to ChatGPT, and it was able to guide me to separate the articles, and then it turned into 2 articles. And what I learned from that, I mean, we turned it into 2 articles, but like through the guidance of ChatGPT, and it would have taken me maybe 5 days of 8-hour days of reading to do what I was able to do in 20 minutes. So that, as a person who's been, a professor now for 20 years, was amazing. I mean, the fact that I was able to get in 20 minutes done what would take me a week of a 40-hour week to do was just truly amazing.
The
And
productivity jump is incredible. It really
my
is.
response to it was, when you're using it wisely, like fairly, ethically, it's truly astounding because it just makes my job easier. I had to ask it the right questions for it to be able to produce that information.
Yeah.
So I thought that was amazing. And then the last thing I'll say for now is that I also teach classes online. And then this semester, for the first time, I tried just like putting words in the AI generate, like internship ethics, internship professionalism, literally 2 words, and
Hmm.
generated 3 different kinds of questions based on creativity, application, and analysis. And all I had to do was pick it and pick either easy, medium, or hard. And in what normally would take me 3 or 4 hours to generate one class that's really thoughtful and intentional, I was able to do 10 assignments in about 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Again, I'm just sharing that because from an educated person's standpoint, understanding the ethics and understanding the boundaries, it's truly amazing. And also, we know when people are using it wrong. It's also very easy. And
Yeah.
please provide the PowerPoint.
Yes, no problem. And I want to touch on, you said as an educated person, right? And one of my big things, and we'll get to education a little bit more in a second, but one of the things I've been saying to people is, I've spent over 40 years on this earth. I've learned how to write. I've learned how to do math. I've learned all of these things. So now I can use AI to augment me, to lift me up, to make me better at what I do, using it responsibly and using it ethically. My fear is for your college students or for kids K to 12 who are looking for shortcuts because they don't want to do homework or they don't want to read that book, and they're not learning how to write and do these things. If they use AI as a shortcut, we're in for some trouble if a majority of the population chooses to do that, which is why I've been advocating for responsible use. We have to teach these kids responsible use early on. And right now, there are a lot of educators and a lot of schools and a lot of districts that want to bury their head in the sand and hope this goes away. And it's not going away. It's not going to go away. And the other thing I will say, Chris, and I don't know what your experience is, but what we found in the school district that I work in and the surrounding area and the people I've talked to is that these AI detectors, the kids are finding some ways around them now. And I saw a kid the other day, ChatGPT on one screen, his essay on the other screen, getting stuff from ChatGPT and then just retyping it in so the thing can't tell that it's AI generated. And so sometimes these kids are spending more time thinking of ways to get around it than just writing the stuff the way that they should. So I really hope that we can make a dent over the next few years in responsible use for kids, because I think not only will that help them educationally, but if we start teaching them how to think ethically and how to think morally about this technology, that's going to help us in the big challenges in the future as they become adults, as they become the workforce, as they become the drivers of all of this. So
So
that's my thoughts on that. Yep.
thank you. So
Carol.
Ben, I'm just wondering, and I certainly want you to get to the rest of your slides, but would this also be a good time? Because I had asked Ben earlier today, is there something that he could tell us about an action? What can we be aware of and maybe know about? And you were talking about something that was in the this recent bill that I don't think it was passed, right? But we have
Mm-hmm.
to be aware of it as citizens, and you were urging us to be aware of it and maybe be in touch with our local representatives. Can you just give more information on that?
Yeah, in the bill that was just passed by Congress, there was for a while a provision that would have banned any regulation on AI for the next decade. And thank God that was taken out of the bill. Thank God. And I can't even imagine what that would have looked like. We need more regulation, not less. And so right now we have an opportunity still to legislate. And my advice and the call to action would be any politician that you can get in front of or contact to say we need responsible guardrails put on this technology. There's concern, of course, politically, geopolitically, about, you know, say a country like China or Russia or any of these other countries that we're essentially in competition with, that if we were to put too many guardrails on and slow our progress and they were to continue advancing in AI and don't put any guardrails on, that it might change the power balance in the entire world. I mean, that's what we're looking at. And that's a real concern. But we also can't just be full steam ahead willy-nilly without anything, because I think that will also lead to disaster. So just pushing our politicians for responsible guardrails to put on this technology, I think is very important. There's another call to action, but Carol, I think I'm going to save that for the environmental slide. So I'm going to continue through
Molly?
here.
Okay, Molly, and then we'll move on. Okay, Molly?
Well, I had kind of a question and a follow-up to what you're saying, Ben, which I think is right on. Of course, just recently, at the same time that they, thank God, pulled that out about no guardrails, just unregulated for AI, the recognition that beyond just data gathering in these large language modules and so on, and pulling together an essay or whatever, or pulling together a different module for whatever climate, is that AI has the ability now to think for itself, to think independently of us, the creators. And as following up on that kind of, we don't really know how they're doing it. So I just am thinking and urging us, related to the Sisters of Charity and our mission and so on, is understanding that there is money in all of this, and that there is money in a lot of places that want to use AI and have no idea what they're doing. And meanwhile, AI is becoming, if you will, ever more without the guardrails, whether there's legislation or not. It really is getting to a point where, whether we have legislation or not, AI will have the ability to think and to, if you will, beat us at our processing, because our processing and input doesn't go as quickly as AI. So all I'm really saying, Ben, I don't want to interrupt because I know you're probably going further in this, I know. But is as an associate of the Sisters of Charity, and as sisters, I think if we can remember who has the money, who wants to control this. So there's the individual, the kind of micro, which I totally agree with you, Ben, and then the macro. And if we can also, at the same time as we address the individual, meaning teaching, education, climate, whatever, if we can also address this issue of who has the money, who thinks that they can manipulate and use AI, and we're all going to be sorry if we don't stop them.
Thank you for that, Molly. Thank
Sorry,
you.
Carol.
And I will tell you too, you know, if you think about it, we talked about specialized AI versus generative AI, right? We've already seen these companies use specialized AI weaponized against us for their profits. Every time you open Instagram, I don't know how many of the sisters are on Instagram, but Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, they are assaulting you with AI algorithms, specialized algorithms designed to keep you on those platforms, designed to make them money. So if you think that they're not going to try to do that with generative AI, you're crazy. And so Molly, you're right on, and we have to hold them accountable. And Carol, I will plug, based on what Molly said right now, I highly recommend that you all look into and look up some videos, even if you just look at it on YouTube, of the Stanford's Institute for Human-Centered AI, because that's what we're really trying to think about here. And some of the principles that they have with human-centered AI, they talk about 3 prongs that we should be looking at with AI: how it's affecting the user, how it's affecting the general surroundings, immediate surroundings on the micro level, and then, as Molly said, on the macro level, society as a whole. And so we really have to look at all of these AI technologies through that lens. I share Molly's fear that I don't necessarily think that all of the companies that are in charge of this technology have our best interests at heart. I think they say they do, but I have not seen that necessarily. So
Ben, I know you want to move on, and what we definitely will do is when you send me some of those links to things, since I have everyone's email, I'll definitely send them the links so that anyone who wants to explore this further could. Okay. Thank you.
So let me try to get through these last couple slides real quick for you. So there's one thing that I want to show you based on what we talked about, negative use cases. So this video that I'm about to play for you, as I told you, I am a school counselor at an elementary school. And one of the videos that I played for my kids this year was a video that I made using Google's VO3 to show how real these things look. And I'll probably play this twice. It's only 8 seconds long. I want you to see it and digest it and then look at it one more time. And you'll see just how real these technologies can make things seem. And so this was part of a lesson of how can you tell if something is fake? How can you tell if it's real? How do we discern that in an AI world? So this is a video I made for my 5th grade students.
Can you tell I'm not real? Mr. Samara made me in 60 seconds with Google Flow.
So I'll play that one more time just so you can see. Just look at the video. Tell me if there's any way, if you didn't know this was real, not real, that you could tell.
Samara made me in 60 seconds with Google Flow.
Okay. So I just want you to think about the fact that that video was made from a text prompt. Everything that was in that video, I described in about 2 paragraphs, and it made that video for me in less than a minute. And we are literally at the first probably 1 to 2% of what this technology is going to be. So just think on that. And that's another reason why we need to have guardrails on this technology. My personal opinion, and I'll stop sharing for a second so you can see my face. My personal opinion is that AI video generation needs heavy guardrails. For me, I can't think of a use of this technology that shouldn't be heavily regulated. If you're thinking about using it for advertising or things like that, maybe you buy a license for it. But to have that powerful technology where I can make anything in less than 5 minutes is something that we need to be very careful of. All right. So let's get through these last couple slides. So, well, no, we don't want to watch that again. Next. All right. I want to talk about the environmental impact because that's a big piece of this, of AI. So a couple statistics here. At Microsoft's Iowa data center, they tripled water usage while they were training ChatGPT-4, which was their latest model at the time. For some reason, that coincided with a severe 3-year drought in that area. So think about that. A lot of water being used. For every 20 questions answered, it consumed 500 milliliters of water. And even training the earlier model, it says, was the equivalent of a single person taking 550 transcontinental flights. Okay, so that's a lot of energy. But on the flip side, they're saying that AI by 2035 could actually reduce global greenhouse gas emissions because of the technology that's going to be developed and some of the solutions that AI is going to help us come up with. So what these companies are saying essentially is we're going to use AI to solve the problem with the environment that we're creating with AI, which is fine. But I would like to hear more about how they're going to do that, because when Meta announces today that they're building a data center that is the equivalent of the size of Manhattan, I can't imagine that that's a good thing for the environment. So one of the things that I think this group could really advocate for is more transparency and more regulations in terms of the environmental impact of AI, which I know is something that's very, very important to this group. Next is ethics, morals, misinformation. So it's just important to remember AI isn't morally neutral. It reflects us. It reflects what we give it, and it reflects the training data as well. Mo Gawat is somebody who's really, really good to follow on this. He was a former executive at Google who left Google, and he now speaks on AI. And, you know, he said, just think about this. If you're out on Twitter or X or any of these social media platforms, all of the arguing and sniping back and forth and people being angry and nasty to each other, all of that now gets fed into AI systems. AI thinks that that's how we treat each other. And so now AI begins to eventually treat and talk in that similar way. So how we treat each other online, and this is something I try to talk to our students about as well, is so important. Okay. We talked about generating falsehoods. We talked about cultivating people that are capable of understanding what is true and what's not true in a world of content that is generated. And I love this quote as well. The greatest danger isn't that AI will develop a will of its own, but that it will execute the flawed will of humans. So one thing Mo Gawat says is that AI won't necessarily destroy us or lead to dystopia or any of these things that a lot of people are saying. If that ends up happening, it will be because of the decisions that humans have made and the things that we either did or did not do to set this on the right path. And so it's important to think about our role in this. So I just want to talk quickly about education. We talked about expanding access across languages, across income levels, across places that have historically not had any access to education, personalized learning, low-cost education. But we have to ensure that these tools are serving all, not just the privileged or those with money. Right? We have to make sure that we're benefiting society as a whole. And then teaching responsible use, teaching students to question, not just consume content, making sure they're not replacing their learning. The only way we can do that is by talking to students about this technology. If you are talking to someone who's in education and they're talking about ignoring AI, going back to little blue books, and having kids write in the books and not having them interact with AI at all, please tell them that we have to teach our youth how to use this technology responsibly and how to be discerning when they use it. So helping them understand bias and privacy, and that it should be a tool, not a replacement for their critical thinking. And then finally, getting to employment and meaning and the dignity of work in the age of AI. There's a lot of people that really think that one of the things we're going to see over the next several years to the next decade is a large increase in unemployment, to the point where a lot of people are talking about UBI or universal basic income, or how do we figure that out, right? And I think there's going to be a big push and pull in how this works out. But jobs are going to change. If you think about the internet when it came out in 1993, it's very much like what we're talking about with AI today. It was new. A lot of people were talking about it. They didn't really understand how it worked. And we had no idea what was going to happen over the next 2 decades in terms of jobs that were created because of this, or social media, or Google searches, things like that. We had no idea what was coming. Similarly, to the nth degree, we have no idea what's coming in the world of work with this technology, especially, and if you've seen iRobot or the Terminator, I'm sorry, especially as AI converges with the robotics industry, which is going to happen very, very soon, and we start having humanoid robots doing human tasks. That's going to drastically change the world of work, and it's already started to happen. A company called Figure AI has over 1,000, I believe, humanoid robots in BMW factories working on cars as we speak. So it's changing the world of work slowly, but that exponential curve is going to go up very, very quickly. So we need to, again, go back to that Stanford Institute of Human-Centered AI. We have to think about purposeful human-centered work, and most importantly, protecting the vulnerable, right? And being able to retrain communities when maybe jobs do go away. And if a large swath of jobs do go away, how do we preserve meaningful contribution to society, right? If we do move to a UBI over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, which I think is going to be a big ask of our governments and our politicians. I think there's going to be a big fight over the next few decades over that. How do we then preserve meaningful contribution to society, right? And I think that we can stem some of that by that last bullet point, which we've said a few times tonight, which is we can let AI handle some tasks, but we have to let humans lead. We have to be at the forefront. We cannot just start wholesale replacing humans with AI systems, because that will lead to disaster. And that's what we should be advocating for: human-centered AI use, moral AI use, ethical AI use. And with that, I am finished. Questions? Comments?
Well, I'll say something quickly. Loved it. Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, very scary. I even find myself when I use it, just like as you said, as Chris said, double checking, making sure that the information is correct, because it does provide a lot of false information.
It will do it very confidently too.
Yeah, the other day I was studying and I was like, oh, I don't remember what this is. And then I was like, that's definitely not it. But that to me is the main concern for students, like you said, because they don't know that. And so how do we teach them that? And I'm not sure in the States what the deal is with the iPads, but here in Spain, it's become a real thing. From fourth grade on, in almost every school, students have iPads. They don't have notebooks, they don't have textbooks, everything's on the iPad.
One-to-one devices. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's causing a lot of problems because they don't know how to write, they don't know how to properly research on the internet. And so in high school, our high school students are just using ChatGPT or any other type of AI to do all their work for them.
Yep.
And I don't teach high school, I teach preschool, so I'm not dealing with that, but I am seeing the negative effects of overuse of technology in the classroom.
And I have as well. And we created something called the pivot framework, which is essentially what schools should be using for technology integration. And pivot stands for 5 things.
Okay.
And you should not be using, I want schools to understand this. You shouldn't be using technology in the classroom if it's not purposeful, if it's not inclusive, if it doesn't add value, if you can't have oversight, and if you can't track it using data, right? So we shouldn't just be throwing technology at kids unless there's a real purpose to it. And there's a big difference between screen entertainment time, which is very damaging to kids, and screen learning time. And so we need to be discerning of that as well.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I know a lot of teachers, you know, to teach foreign languages, they use it. And as you said earlier, like that could be an advantage, teaching people who maybe don't have the opportunity or who come from a low income family or who need one-on-one tutoring but can't afford it. That's great. I agree. Yes. In school, they definitely have screen time, just like watching TV on the screen. But a lot of teachers are falling back on using the digital board, making everything fun and entertaining.
Gamified too.
That's the word. That's the word.
And
Gamified. And I
Jessica,
am so against that.
the gamification too, we think that students are being engaged, right? But what's really happening when we do too much gamification, and for those who don't know, gamification is essentially you're doing the learning in the form of a game or in some way that maybe mirrors a video game a kid might play or something like that. And what you're doing is you're firing the dopamine receptors in these children's brains. And if you do that for a majority of the day, their dopamine has been firing all day. And now it's much, much harder for them to sit still, to learn in any different way other than that. And so we have to be really, really careful of the dopamine that we're injecting into these kids throughout the day. I'm a strong advocate. I'm a strong advocate for AI in schools when used the right way, but I'm also a strong advocate for, one, cell phone bans, and two, that districts and schools, I think, should pass policies that cap the amount of screen time that should be allowed during the school day.
So I want to do a little time
Thank you,
check
Jess.
here. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, for sharing your information. Taught me something too. Ben, I know we're at an hour. I do want to say if anyone has to leave. I think maybe if we can go another 5 minutes or so, there might be, Claire has a question. I see.
I'm happy to stay as long as you all have questions.
So I just want to give people the freedom to leave also, but I certainly want to entertain more questions. So Claire, yes. Yes, you have to unmute yourself.
2 points. One relates to the poverty of language I see when I'm reading AI materials. For instance, they don't seem to be able to feed back symbolic language, allegorical, metaphorical kind of understandings of words. This one time I was caught in a chat GPT, and there was a word, I was using it one way, and it couldn't use it any way but a particular way. And it kept arguing with me. I said, I'm out of here. Get me out of here. This is crazy. It couldn't relate to what the heck I was saying. It was using the same word, but the wrong meaning of the word. That's one thing. So there's a poverty of language, I think. But will it be able to move into symbolic, metaphorical, and allegorical applications of human language? The other thing, the bias, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's a serious, serious area we need to, with a moral compass, keep our eye on. Because when you read the comment section of anything, it's like depravity. I don't read comments anymore.
It's hard.
Horrible, ugly behind these screens because of the anonymity. And if these systems, as they re-up their data, are picking up all that ugly stuff, that creates a terrible bias on what it's going to produce for us. What's been your experience and sense of that, Ben?
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of the times the bias goes unnoticed. You really have to look for it, and we have to teach people how to look for it. And it comes in all different ways. And I think one of the ways that we can teach that, and I actually have a class at the College of New Jersey that I've been teaching this summer on AI enhanced education. And one of the things we look at is bias, and we look at some of the things like what I was talking about, asking it, give me a list of doctors or give me this thing. And can you find examples of bias, or what kind of a list of people are you getting, or what does this writing say that might have some of that in there. So I think you have to almost practice trying to spot it and pick it out. And it's only going to get more sophisticated. And my hope is that some of these companies, if they haven't already, will start putting into their training some guardrails against that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, thank you, Claire, for the question, Ben, for the answer. Lynn put a question or a comment in the chat. Ben, I don't know if you can pick it up, but she's mentioning the 60-minute show about a year ago with Norway, the educational system in Norway. And she had us that students, they were teaching students how to spot fake information. Now,
I think those classes are essential. I think we need to have things like that everywhere.
So are there any similar courses that you know of here? And if not, can you, if you find any, can you share them with us so that we can share them with others? If you find...
I will. Yeah. I mean, I can only tell you what I do, and some of the things that I've done with our students, which I think need to be replicated far and wide, are, I've done real or AI quizzes. They see two images, which one is real, which one is AI, trying to understand the nuances and the little things that you can see to tell whether or not something is fake or been generated. And unfortunately, it's just going to get harder and harder to do that as the technology evolves, but we have to make sure we're staying up, on that. The bias exercises, when you prompt AI, what is the output that you're getting? Teaching students how to prompt, and a prompt is what you put into the large language model so that to get the output back. What you put in is what you get out. Garbage in, garbage out, essentially. So just teaching kids these little nuances, very, very, very important.
So that's great. And I see Chris gave us a link. So Chris,
Yeah,
I'll keep that link.
I
And
just wanted to say about that. Yeah. As a professor, we have academic standards, right? So I think about the concept of trending, and I think that professors have always been trending our work, but no one knew. Now the trending exists, right? The concept. And there isn't something, I'm sure we've all heard of it, or it's called MLA, Modern Language Association. If you write a paper in college, you have to do formatting guidelines based on MLA guidelines. There's also APA, whatever. The one that I sent you is a link through Purdue University. It's one of the most popular free and open access ones that anyone can use. And it's called OWL Purdue. And there is a section for students under the MLA, I'm sure under the others too, but I'm not as familiar, with that tells you how to check if a source is valid. So how to check if an online source is valid. And again, this is not new. This is actually, this is information from 20 or some odd years ago, but it's always updated. So I can't tell you exactly where it is, but it's in the content. If you look at the MLA formatting guideline, when it's under electronic sources and under different areas that you read, that you can read, because it used to be a book that you buy. Any of us who went to college throughout the years, you would actually purchase this book for your English class or other classes. So there is a section that helps teach students how to tell whether a website is legitimate or not. Now, I don't know if AI has found ways around that, but at least for the last 20 some odd years, there has been protocol for how to evaluate websites. So I would suggest people to look at that at least as a starting point.
Thanks, Chris. And I will,
Thanks,
when
Chris.
I send out some material, I'll include that link.
I'm also going to put, Carol, I'm putting in the link right in the chat right now, a link to a video that I actually filmed for that College of New Jersey class that I put up on YouTube for free for everybody to view. And it's really about what we need to teach people about AI. So if you have anyone who's wondering about that, or anyone who you're having conversations with about that, you feel free to share that video or watch that yourself.
So this is really good. I'm conscious of the time. It's almost 7:40. I want to thank Ben, first of all, I want to thank you. I learned a lot. I have to say, and I'm going to say it so some of us on this call who might feel this way feel okay. There's so much I have to learn. I'm sure a lot went in and a lot went out. So I still have so much to learn about this, and so many of these terms are new for me. So I appreciate your being here with us.
And can I just say, Carol,
Yes.
that we still all have so much to learn. I still have stuff to learn as well, because this technology is increasing every couple of months. And so what we know now, we're going to all have to keep learning, and it's imperative that we all try to stay as on top of it as we can. And if we're having trouble understanding something, to reach out and to figure out someone we can go to get that information, or to get up to speed, because the more people we have who really understand the challenge that we're facing, the more likely we are to be successful at tackling that challenge. And it's something I'm very concerned about. I started as kind of a AI, when I first really got into AI, I was like, this is going to change the world and this is amazing and we should just put AI into everything. And the more I researched, now I almost feel like more of an alarmist. But I really see the good this can do, but I also see the harm that can come. And we really need to all get together as a society and a community to make sure that the end result here is the utopia that I know that we can have, and not the dystopia that people fear.
So thank you, Ben. Ben, this is like a first in the sense of where we've had an online conversation on AI. It's not going to be the last. I do know the two groups I mentioned in the beginning, Cosmological Spirituality Group and Creation Transformation and Energy Group, want to look at it more. So we probably will come up with some ways that we need to learn more, and also how can we help, in a sense, do some of those actions that you were talking about, the learning and then follow through. So I'm going to just formally end this by saying, Ben, thank you. And thank you, everyone else. I'm going to end the recording.
And can I just ask, Carol,
Yes.
if anyone on this call has connections with people in the education space where you feel like this work is not being done, my goal really, really is to spread this message to as many schools, as many students, as many teachers and districts as possible. So please share my information. Feel free. I want to work with everyone I can to get this message out. This really is the challenge of our time.
So thank you. Thank you. And part of what I want to say to this group too, I don't want to keep them, but you have my email address. If you have ideas on a follow-up on either how we might invite Ben back and do something, or we might find someone else. We do know that Pope Leo XIV really is going to be focusing on AI. He's come out with some very critical statements already. And we know from recent documents, not just his, but Pope Francis, we know that there is that concern about the human relationship, the encounter that we need, the respect, the dignity. And so that how will that happen as we take away that personal encounter and replace it with AI? So there is a big concern there. So please email me if you have any thoughts on how we might proceed. So thank you.
I just want to put one more link in the chat for that Stanford
Okay.
Human-Centered AI, if anybody wants to bookmark it. And thank you all for having me. I'll come back anytime.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Ben, thank you very, very much.
Bye.
Wow, wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye, familia. Ciao. Bye.
I'm trying to stop the recording.
You have to hit
This new, yes.
maybe where it says more.
Thank you.
I'm not sure.
That's
But
it. You got it. The new
Okay.
thing. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ann Carol.